Holy shit. Baby formula, really? We're still talking about baby formula. Yes. InTheseTimes put out a great article about this. Okay. So this is, I don't know why I forgot to get the title capped, but anyway, Amber Romero's son Max has known nothing but a formula shortage. He was born February 2022, same month that the largest formula plant in the country closed down as well due to a recall. We covered this last year. This has left Romero, a breast cancer survivor who had to rely on formula, in an impossible situation. All right. Here, you know what, Angel, that's a good idea. Let's put all the hashtags in there real quick. Boom. All right. So her son's only food source is routinely missing, and only through perseverance, a network of friends and strangers on the internet have they been able to piece together a steady supply as long as they have. Now, luckily, Max turns 1 this month, and he's going to now begin going off of formula. So it'll be a somber reminder that the shortage has outlasted them and not the other way around. Quote, we never had any normalcy with this situation. I don't know what it's like to grab a few things at the grocery store and just pick up some formula. And that's disgraceful, heartbreaking, and angering as a parent myself. That's one of the reasons that I told Reef, this is going to be a long story and you're going to get a little bored by this because I'm a parent and this matters to me. I had to go through this shit for my kids and this angers the crap out of me. Quote, we never had any normalcy with this situation.
People can't afford to feed their babies.
Right. Romero's 41 years old.
I mean, it's also the fact that we've made kids rely on formula, so...
Well, that's a whole other argument here.
Nestle.
Well, to a point, Similac, also the Similac family, that's Abbott Labs now. But the ongoing formula shortage, which peaked in May and June last year, has largely fallen out of public awareness. In-stock numbers have improved. The country appears to have moved on to the next crisis, though a scarcity of eggs, parents noted, of course, is not as panic-inducing as the shortage of the one food many babies eat. Yet, families in many parts of the country still report bare store shelves and limited options, particularly in rural communities with fewer retailers. Not really a surprise. Big box stores, including CVS and Target, continue to limit how much formula you can buy at one time. And starting next month, low-income families who rely on federal assistance to pay for formula will have even fewer options as waivers enacted during the height of the crisis begin to expire. That actually happened on March 1st. And then they're showing empty shelves of Similac formula in Target, of course. So by now, the shortage has been going on for so long.
Why you gotta slide? Oh, because they're like, I feel you. It's just those weird packaging.
It's just
like
on
the front
photo.
of things.
Yep. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
that's not weird packaging. That's
yeah, it's like, I know, it's like a move this and then get your stuff. Like,
it's not even just move this. You literally probably have to get a manager. I think that's for like security purposes. So that yeah,
I see. So that people can't steal food for their children.
It's not wide enough. Oh, it's gross. It's Target. So by now, the shortage has been going on for so long. And Target's like one of the most expensive places to buy formula, by the way. Although the powdered stuff, I think I used to get there pretty often.
Right.
By now, the shortage has been going on so long, all types of formula are missing from stores, not just the sensitive brands that were initially, which is what my kid took, and are still in short supply. Romero's son drinks Enfamil NeuroPro, which is a brand that wasn't even manufactured at the Abbott nutrition plant that shut down last year. Enfamil is a brand of Wreck-It. I can't believe I'm going to wreck it, like Wreck-It Ralph, which of course was the second largest formula producer in the United States until recently, when it took over more than 50% of the market share from Abbott after desperate parents switched their kids over. Holy crap. In the past year, Romero turned to friends at her home of Des Moines, Iowa, for help on social media, posting to Facebook when she was low, and asking others to look out for her son's brand. I mean, Facebook groups, literally saving babies' lives. I'm not kidding. The added pressure she feels as a first-time parent navigating the sea of unknowns that's already come with a new baby has felt suffocating at times. I can't even imagine. In pandemic times, having to deal and navigate with putting a mask on an infant, like when and how, it's heartbreaking. And I know there aren't that many times now, but like you take them to a doctor's office, they still make you put a mask on a kid. So as soon as I start to see our formula stash go down, it's almost like panic for me. Yeah. My husband sometimes thinks I'm overreacting, I don't know if it's a motherly instinct type thing pulling through, but it's stressful. I believe that. So a formula shortage like this was poised to happen at any moment if just one component of the supply chain broke down. And because of heavy regulation, only 3 companies, Abbott, Reckitt, and Gerber, controlled almost the entire formula market in the U.S. at the start of the shortage. Between them, they operate just 9 factories, and the one that shut down was the largest. And on top of that, as much as 65% of all formulas purchased by families on food stamps, WIC, supplemental program for low-income women and children. All right. State contracts limit the types of formula that they can even buy, so when shortages begin, shelves emptied quickly. What a shock, right? It's one of those things where you don't really know how messed up the system is until the system breaks completely. Great. I love hearing that, right? It's one of those things, again, I don't know why that's there twice. That's Alyssa Scheimer, who's the president for government relations at Moms Rising, right? So they've worked with President Joe Biden's administration on solutions to the formula crisis. Joseph or Robin at Biden. Where am I? I don't know. The same communities that struggle with access to food are seeing those issues again with the formula shortage, and there hasn't been a clear answer from the Biden administration or the private companies as to why those distribution challenges have lingered for a year. Low-income families.
That's the only way you can find room to pay for it.
You creepy bastard. Low-income families and parents of color are more likely to be on food stamps, WIC, and purchase formula, while also being overrepresented in jobs that don't allow them the flexibility to pump or breastfeed. Parents of color are also less likely to live near hospitals that offer breastfeeding support. By the time babies are 6 months old, when they generally start consuming food as well as milk, only about 19% of Black women and 24% of Latinas are still exclusively breastfeeding, compared with 27% of white women, according to a 2019 CDC estimate. Well, I got a big question about CDC estimates, and we've learned a lot about the CDC and how it's basically controlled by a cartel. And I would not be saying, we know that the pharmaceutical companies, including Abbott and Reckitt and Gerber, would all be involved in funding that too. And we'll pause for a Reef bong break right there. But the formula crisis...
Why would we pause?
I don't know. The formula crisis is a microcosm. The broader systemic challenges that are facing low-income families accessing basic necessities. And not just access, but real access to basic necessities. And that's Jamila Taylor, and she's president and CEO of National WIC Organization, which is a nonprofit that works with state and local WIC agencies. And she said their partners on the ground have also found that higher income people from other communities have gone into neighborhoods with higher need and purchased formula there. Isn't that nice? So, the middle class and wealthy area, they ran out of formula. So let's go down to the ghetto. They probably got formula down there. That's literally what they're saying. That's gross.
That's fucked up.
Yep. Those that have contributed to the shortage among the other families that need it. Okay. There are still some real challenges on the ground. And to be quite honest, the White House, they weren't as responsive as they should have been initially when it came to this issue. So we're kind of still trying to play catch up. This is what we're dealing with. Shelves that look like this.
Yep.
I can't even imagine as a parent. I'm going out to Target to pick up some formula. This orange Similac, that's what one of my kids used to use. The other one used to have a special one that I had to... What?
I was going to put that on the soundboard. Like, what was it? The food is poison.
Oh my God, that was so fun.
The food is poison.
Oh. Yes,
like, this is part of, like, I mean, we've covered this about 1,000 ways. My river of melted butter. Like...
River of melted butter.
They've been... A river of melted butter. They like it's food shortages everywhere on practically everything. Like, and what isn't there is poison. It's all got lead in it and like heavy metals.
Poison. Yep. We are
and not the good heavy metals.
No, definitely not. There's also there's ever chemicals and forever chemicals, right? That's PFAS, forever chemicals in water,
microplastics.
Yep. Yeah, we're doing great.
Yeah.
This is fine.
We're doing
According to the data from Nielsen IQ, of course, we know Nielsen, our friends over at Nielsen, and on average, about 13% of formula stock has been missing from store shelves over the past 8 weeks. At the worst of the shortage in late May, about 24% of stock was missing. The shortage is worst in southern states, including Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, as well as Colorado, California.
Where people are making more babies.
Maybe, but also Colorado and California, lots of free weed out there. Lots of free, not weed, but legal weed out there. Where 15 to 20% of formula was out of stock over the past 2 months. 20% of formula out of stock. Welcome to America, folks.
Yep.
Land of the abundance. Nationwide, about 16% of families reported difficulty obtaining formula during the first week of January, according to the Census Bureau. Marginalized communities struggle the most. 30% of, Latinx families, thank you, in these times, and 19% of Black families reported difficulty. Latinx, compared with 12% of white families. Yep. About 8% of families said they had less than a week of formula on hand. We never really kept more than 2 weeks of formula. It even goes bad. Plus, you never know when the kids are going to not need it. So you don't want to keep more than a month, usually. Half of all families said that they switched formula brands, and 35% received formula online or from family and friends, while some turned to more drastic options, including watering formula down, which is 5%, or making their own. Okay, I guess, like, if you're gonna, like,
I mean, what, powdered milk and like,
I don't know. I think they're talking about like making your own baby food, maybe, like, mashed peas and whatever. But yeah, I don't know.
Sure, nanners.
So Andrea Ippolito, who's founder of Simply Fed, which is a virtual breastfeeding and baby feeding support platform. How interesting! They can make a fucking buck out of anything. Said that a year later, the frustration among her clients is that no systemic changes have been put into place. What a surprise. These are our more vulnerable humans, and we put Band-Aids on huge gaping holes in the system. We have too few players that have too much control of the market. Wow, monopoly? Go figure. The federal government is still trying to piece together exactly what went wrong. Well, we know what went wrong. Just ask Judd Legume. Department of Justice last month opened a criminal investigation into the Abbott facility in Michigan that shut down on February 17th, 2022. They had letters going back to October or November warning them of what was happening in that plant then, and they ignored it. Initially, the FDA launched an investigation into Abbott after 4 infants became sick with bacterial infections. Abbott said further investigations found, quote, no definitive link between its formula and the baby's illnesses. Of course it didn't. We investigated ourselves and we found that we're just fine. All right. This is another one where they're limiting the baby formula to 4 per guest. And hey, how about that? A whistleblower complaint alerted the FDA to potential safety concerns at the Michigan plant in October 2021. It feels like I just said that, but it didn't reach the highest officials at the FDA until February 22, thanks to red tape, a breakdown in communication that contributed to the botched response to the crisis. Last month, the head FDA official overseeing the formula shortage, Frank Yanis, resigned as a result. The FDA is now beginning a significant overhaul of its entire food safety division, with plans to put one person in charge of overseeing food safety and policy. God, what could possibly go wrong there? A food and safety czar. Let's see. Are they going to have possibly worked for one of these pharmaceutical / formula / Monsanto companies before? My guess is probably. The FDA said in a statement that ensuring the availability of safe infant formula is, quote, one of the most utmost importance to the agency. Of course it is. And adding that it has made significant progress in the last year in its efforts to ensure nutritious, safe infant formulas, including specialty metabolic formulas. Okay. That what they're talking about is Alimentum. That's what my kid actually had to use because she had some kind of thing about lactose. So they're on store shelves for those who rely on these products. So as the federal response is ongoing, it will likely be some time before the situation stabilizes for consumers. And that, again, just angers the shit out of me. I don't think that enough people know that this is still going on and need to keep the pressure on and need to keep talking about this. And people need to know what's going on. So in December, Robert Cleveland, who is Reckitt Senior VP of North America and Europe Nutrition, said he expects the shortage to persist to some degree until at least the spring, which means that into the fall. In the meantime, tariffs on international formula have been reinstated after Congress's Formula Act expired at the end of 2022. I saw somebody actually mention foreign formula. All right. That means it'll be more costly for stores to stock these formula. Baba Yaga, I agree with you, except that my kids use this stuff, and you think it should be more expensive for everyone to have it, except my wife couldn't pump and couldn't produce, and you got to feed your kids something. So what are you going to do? I don't know what the answer is, but it's all happening as the waivers created for families on food stamps started to phase out in the coming months, leaving no safety net. So as of March 1st, food stamp participants will once again be limited on which brand of formula they can purchase using the program. States have a contract with a singular manufacturer, either Abbott, Reckitt, or Gerber, which have held all WIC contracts for 3 decades. That's not a monopoly or anything. At the start of the shortage, a rule was relaxed to allow WIC families to purchase whatever formula they could find, but soon they'll be restricted to the formula their state contracts with again. And if there's a shortage on May 1st, they're no longer to be able to use WIC to buy larger or varied container sizes of formula, eliminating flexibility also designed to increase availability for families. Formula comes in either powder or liquid form in multiple sizes. And then by July 1st, all these flexibilities that allowed families to purchase imported specialty formulas with WIC will also expire. Advocates, of course, want to see all these changes made permanent. They can't be temporary changes because we can't go through this again. We saw it blow up for families and be such a challenging issue, not to mention the mental health impact that it has on moms. Like it's brutal, right? So this is not too far from me because I'm in New Jersey. So Kathleen Nagy, who's a mother of an 18-month-old and a 4-month-old, has now been through the formula shortage with both of her kids. Her older daughter was still on formula, a specific Enfamil brand for children with dairy allergies called Nutrimegan, when the shortage began. But Nagy couldn't find Nutrimegan at the start of 22, driving to 7, 8, or 9 different stores to try to find it. Even though she had WIC and even though her state contracted with Enfamil already, she said her local WIC office couldn't ship her the formula after March 2022. They couldn't find it either. So when her son was born in September, they were okay until about November, when she started noticing that his formula, a sensitive type called Enfamil Gentilese, which I also gave my kids for a little bit, was also missing from stores. Mm-hmm. They began buying larger boxes of powder formula at $50 each, which was the only thing left. It lasts them at most about 2 weeks. Yeah. She says she can't keep doing that, and it's super stressful. So some changes to the program could help parents in the case of another shortage. Allowing families to use WIC to purchase items online can help mitigate the added transportation and regional issues with shortage for families who are already low income. So allowing them to use their WIC benefits in another state. That's another thing that could potentially help. So she's got people begging, where can you find this in West Virginia? Where Brianna Dietrich runs a Facebook group for parents searching for formula. That's a constant issue.
Well,
gross. The families in rural area that she helps live near the border with Ohio, and on her Facebook page, which has nearly doubled in size since May, it's often the case that families in more than one state, in one state, have the formula family is looking for in another, but parents may not have the funds to travel to get it or to pay for formula without using the food stamp cards. So, yeah, again, she's got people begging, where can you find this? Her youngest daughter was on the formula when the shortage began. Okay. When she said the impact on her family was profound. When her eldest daughter was recently out in the town for a cheerleading competition, she sent her a picture of the formula aisle at a grocery store, and her older son reflexively walked down the formula aisle where he stopped at a Kroger, sent a photo to his mom. In both photos, the shelves were largely empty. The fact that my children are teenagers see it because they've been there with the baby. The mental side of this, I'm still not okay. Like it's taxing families. There's a few potential solutions in the works. FDA announced last month that it's creating a pathway, quote unquote, for international formula providers brought in during the shortage to continue marketing their products while simultaneously working toward FDA accreditation to stay in the U.S. market. 11 companies have expressed interest in doing so. I'm sure they're all multi-billion-dollar conglomerate multinationals. The agency is using a pandemic data analysis tool to help track in-stock rates of formula and anticipate shortages. We talked about that before. That's coming from Nielsen IQ. It's also helping establishing a new Office of Critical Foods to manage oversight of medical foods and formula that people rely on as their single source of nutrition. I think that's a great idea. In California, now this is a bad idea, a bill's been introduced that would create a formula stockpile for the state, similar to supply buildups for medication. Abbott also recently announced plans to open a second U.S. plant in Ohio, but commercial production of formula isn't slated until 2027. You got another 4 years before that thing becomes operational.
Right.
So this lawyer said that in working with the administration, it's clear that some of the issues are down to the private companies. Quote, the administration can't get into a truck and distribute formula from a private manufacturer, so some of the concerns are hyper-localized, but federal government does have the ability to make permanent the regulations that changed in the last year. The moment to act is now. Yeah. While that crisis is still really fresh in the minds of a lot of people, now this I thought was so fucked up in Libby. All right, it's basically saying never use a crisis. Never miss a crisis to take an opportunity to scare the shit out of people. And that's basically what she's saying here, is that there's far more that probably could be done in this area to make sure that nothing happens in the future. We're not totally out of the woods. It should never be that one factory goes down and the entire country is thrown into a tailspin. I'll totally agree. So what comes next won't soon erase the pain of the past year. Ms. Romero said that she felt misled by formula companies and the federal government when they gave assurances at the height of the shortage in the spring that the situation would stabilize in a few months, and it's a year later and it still hasn't. It's gotten better, but not in certain areas and not for certain people, and especially not for lower income. But that help never came in time for her and her son. Kind of like, what is it now? What's causing the holdup now? We as a country say that we want to put our kids in first, and we don't. We failed as mothers and kids so much. Yeah. I think we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I think we're done with this one. Baby formula. Jeez. The last two, the other two stories are a whole lot better. So to answer your question on the Restream chat stuff, yeah, it does fling it from INN over to Indie Left News. I think that's how it's going, and vice versa, so that you guys could see each other on all the different channels.
And Facebook and
plus to the different
Twitch
platforms too, Facebook, Twitch as well. I think just those three are linked together, and then I also have the ability to put a single chat up here like this. You can't stockpile that stuff, right? Like I said, it doesn't have a long enough shelf life. Exactly it. Baba Yaga has ideas about how you can do that. How you can make your own formula. Only
if it's better than nothing, I'm betting.
No, I'm sure it is, and I'm sure there are definitely ways to make it. So